So I'm going to tell you a story about something I don't think exists here in the United States. While living in China last year, my wife and I found these small libraries that are run as private businesses on the upper floors of large apartment buildings. There are a few different flavors, but a real common theme is that these are places that encourage recreational reading in children. They go by different names: picture book libraries, mother's book salons, parent and child libraries. Now this might seem strange because usually you think of libraries like this. In the West, we assume that libraries are a government service. Like the police and streets, they're something we get in exchange for our taxes. But it hasn't always been that way. And in China, it doesn't work that way right now. So people are getting together and making their own libraries. There's a variety of models, some more successful than others, but basically you rent a vacant apartment, hire a couple people, and if you can attract about 150 families to join up, you can meet your expenses. So why are these things springing up? Well, different people say different things. One person we met, Wu Dong, owns 6 of these libraries. He wants to be the Sam Walton of children's libraries. He's the first person I heard say, parents in China don't read to their children. He told me, when I found out that American parents read out loud to their kids every night, this light bulb went off in my head. That's what's missing. If only we all read to our kids. Well, my student Fiona here on the right said that's bullshit. Her grandfather read to her all the time. He read like Stinky Poo Poo here and the incredibly dark San Mao there. Fiona remembers her mother arguing with her grandfather. Grandpa, stop reading books out loud to her. You're making her too smart. She's getting too far ahead of her classmates. She's only a girl. She doesn't need to be so smart. Dean Chen, my boss in China, said that the recreational reading just isn't something you see when you're out and about. Well, that's not true, Dean Chen. Every bookstore I went to in China looked like this. It was filled with people. This is Walmart. People sitting on the floor reading books in Walmart. So for example, 5 years ago, I met a little boy who was thrilled to attempt to teach me Chinese chess. 5 years later, we're in the same apartment, and now this 13-year-old is, hey, there's a slide gone. Oh, no, I'm talking slow. Books, the kids section in the bookstore, a book about getting into college. In China, there's this huge pressure to study for the college prep test. So 5 years ago, I met this kid. He was thrilled to try and teach me Chinese chess. Last year I met him. He's 13 now. He's like, these are my cactuses in my little window garden. Here's my college test prep study books at my desk. It was like a little bit depressing, like the Gaokao in China. The teenagers in China spend all of their time preparing for this exam. It's a national obsession. There's all these stories that spring up about it, how parents sacrifice for their children, how the child has an obligation to succeed in order to care for their parents in their old age. So the kid, and remember, one kid in China bears this huge burden. Add this all up, and after the age of 5 or 6, there's not really time to be a kid anymore. There's cultural norms to be adhered to. And one of those norms seems to be that reading anything other than a textbook is viewed as being too private, as being too solitary. Now, the kids are part of a bigger urban geographical situation. Remember, I'm a geographer. China has this huge excess middle-class housing capacity. So if you go digging around on the upper floors of these buildings, there's not only children's libraries, but there's travel agencies and movie clubs and mahjong parlors. We've heard about brothels and dance clubs up there. There's also test prep academies, like a Kaplan, because most everyone isn't lucky enough to live near a big library with a college entrance exam study room in it. Every city I went to in China had one of their library had one of these big test prep study rooms. They were always full. This was Christmas vacation. This is Chinese New Year vacation in Kunming. But not too many people live near these libraries because of a very specific geographical thing. Unlike Chicago here, where there's a big downtown main library and then little neighborhood branch libraries, no such thing in China. It's just not part of the. It's just not part of the system for some very particular reasons that there's no time to go into. But suffice it to say that one of the reasons, but this lack of branch libraries is one of the reasons why these little libraries, why these little private libraries are popping up. Another reason I think these libraries are popping up is a bit of groupthink, and I don't mean that in a bad way. China is a place that values the group over the individual. And so mass games start young. They start in grammar school. But it's not always a bad thing. They translate into these awesome things like dancing in the park at night or doing Tai Chi by the train station in the morning. So what does line dancing in the park have to do with children's libraries? Well, think about it. Group activities are a significant part of what happens in libraries. Maybe you've forgotten about that if you don't have little kids, or if you don't go to work in a library every day. And libraries have group activities like story time and book clubs and computer classes and parenting classes. So at Mimi and Dennis's Expecting Mothers book salon here, people come together to talk about books. They come together to talk about parenting, how to talk about about teaching their kids to read. Some of the libraries have problems doing what's called reader's advisory, how to inspire kids to read. So our friend Trisha here introduced us to this whole phenomenon. And along with her, we're trying to form this posse. We're going to take some librarians to China, and we're going to try and help out the librarians. We're going to try and help them inspire recreational reading in kids. We're putting together 4 workshops. We'd like to send a group of folks on tour that know a little bit of something about language acquisition and recreational reading, and we're designing the workshops to aim at 4 distinct groups: early readers, independent readers, young adult readers, and lifelong learners. And what we'd like to do is pitch these to the librarians and the parents and the grandparents and the kids all at the same time. We need flexible people. We need people who are comfortable traveling on overnight trains. We need at least 1 Mandarin speaker, and we need people who know how to use squat toilets. And if this goes well, maybe next year, someone from my posse will be here to talk to you, tell you about the trip. Thanks.